Welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 4, Part 1 of 2 parts. In this first part, we're going to be talking about another method of multiplying two-digit numbers by other two-digit numbers. In our previous lesson, we learned how to multiply two-digit by two-digit numbers using what I call the 4 square. And today we're going to simplify that a little bit and do two-digit by two-digit. I guess what I would call this would be the 2 square. We're going to do a very similar thing. We're going to take our 43 times 67, but instead of breaking up both of our numbers, we're going to break up just one of them. So in this case, I'm going to break up the 43 into both 40 plus 3. And on the top, I'm going to leave the 67 by itself. Now, what makes this problem a little bit simpler perhaps than doing it a traditional way, or still keeps the problem a little bit easier to do, is that we're going to be multiplying 40 times 67 for our first box and 67 times 3 for our second box. Now, you'll probably need to write these out in order to solve them. But we don't have to do double-digit multiplication because here we can ignore this 0 and instead start by multiplying 4 times 7, which is 28, bring our 8 down, carry the 2, 6 times 4, which is 24, plus 2, which is 26, and then return the 0 that we ignored. And we would have 2,680 in the top box. So there's still an ability here for you to do this in your head, yet you still need to see it, so you'll need to rewrite it so you can visualize it. It makes it easier. And in the second box, again, we're going to do 67 times 3 and solve. And again, it's a single digit multiplication, so that makes it easier. You get 189. And now we do as we've done before. We're simply going to take our two partial products. Partial meaning each one of these is a part of the product. There's 2 parts versus 4 parts in our 4 square. And we're going to add to that 201. When you add that, you get 9, 8, 8, 2. So 2,889 would be your final answer. And again, the only difference between this and the one we did in the previous lesson was we turned 4 squares into 2, and that's because we only broke down one of our numbers into 2 digits. We left the other the same. They're calling this method the place value rows method. The place value rows method. So, not the 2 square method. That's not the official name for it. The official name is place value rows. I'm going to have you try number 3 and 4 on page 125 of your workbook. Go ahead and complete those two. Questions 1 and 2 could also be completed. Those questions will be asking you to explain exactly what it is you're doing and how it is alike and different from the previous method. You can write those answers in as well. So you're doing 1 through 4 on page 125. Then come back for the next part of the lesson. This next method you're going to like. It's called the shortcut method. And who doesn't like a shortcut? This is the way that you might call the traditional way. It's the way you were originally taught how to do 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. And so we're going to start off by taking our 3 and multiplying it first by 7. 3 times 7 is 21. We can't put both numbers down, so we're going to bring the 1 down and carry the 2. Then we're going to take our 3 and multiply it by 6. 3 times 6 is 18, plus the 2 that we carried over is 20. So what we ended up doing was taking our 3 and multiplying it first to 7 to get 21. We dropped the 1 down and carried the 2. Then 3 times 6, which is 18, and then add that 2 to get 20. So far, we've got our first row. Now we need to get a second row. In order to do that, we're going to ignore the 3, which is no longer needed, and begin working with the 4. As we move over to another number, we need to, because we're moving over 1 digit from the 3 to the 4, that's 1 digit over, we're going to add 1 0. Since we're moving over 1 digit, we're going to add 1 0. That's called our placeholder. And then we're going to begin by multiplying 4 times 7. 4 times 7. We're going to start with our 4 and multiply it times the first digit, 7, as we did with the 3. 4 times 7 is 28. We're going to drop the 8 down and carry the 2 again. We don't need this 2, but we do need another 2. And then we're going to multiply 4 times 6 to get 24. And then add that 2 to get 26. We're going to fill that in. We're going to make sure it's really important that you line up your numbers, that the 1 is lined up above the 0. Our placeholder goes below the first digit. And everything is lined up evenly, and you give yourself enough space so that things don't get crunched together and you don't have difficulty adding numbers that don't belong in those rows. That's one of the common mistakes that happens. And then we need to add. We now have our 2 rows, and we're going to add 1 plus 0 is 1, 8, 8, and 2. And as you can see, this was the problem we had done earlier, and we got the same answer using a shortcut method. And I'd like to point out that in this shortcut method, you're doing a lot of multiplication, a lot of steps. You're doing 3 times 7, that's one step. 3 times 6, that's another step. 4 times 7, that's one step. That's our third step now. And 4 times 6, which is another step, and our fourth step. And our fifth step would be to add our 2 columns. There are 5 steps still involved with this type of multiplication. We've done 5 steps in the past with the 4 square, and we've done 3 steps in the past just today, earlier in this lesson, with the 2 square. And now the shortcut method is 5 steps. Yet the numbers are easier to multiply, so it might go faster because you're dealing with single digit multiplication only. So therefore it should be quick if you know your math facts. This next method and last method that I'm going to show you is called the new groups method. New groups method. It's very similar to the last method, slightly different. You might actually like this. It's a change of pace. It's a new way to do it. It's kind of fun to do it 3 or 4 different ways. Well, we're going to start off the same way. We're starting with a 3, and we're going to multiply it by 7 and get 21. And we're going to put the 1 down a little lower this time, and instead of putting the 2 up here where we normally would, we're going to put it up here, almost like an opposite of an exponent. We're going to stick it right here. Interesting place to put it. The next step is to take the 3 and multiply it by 6. And 6 times 3 is 18. And so we're going to put the 1 down, or the 8 down, as if we were going to regroup. But the 8 this time is going to go under the last number we regrouped. So it's going to go under the 2. And the number we're going to regroup now is a 1. We're going to put that up to the top left like that. So again, we're moving our regrouping underneath the line instead of regrouping as we normally would. Now we're going to place our placeholder because we're moving over to another number. Whenever we move over a number, then we add a placeholder, and we're going to put that placeholder as we normally would right there. And now we're going to go as before with the 4. We're going to take the 4 and multiply it by 7 first. It's important that we do it in this order. 4 times 7 is 28. So we're going to put our 8 down, which will end up right underneath the other 8, and our 2 up to the top left, just as we have done in the past. And then we're going to go with 4 times 6 4 times 6 is 24. So we're going to put our 4 down next to the 8 and underneath the 2. And the 2 that we regrouped will be regrouped to the left. And now we're going to draw our line and add. And as we add, the first is 1 plus 0, which is 1. Then we have 8 plus 8, which is 16, plus 2 more, which is 18. So we're going to drop the 8 and carry the 1. Then we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2, and nothing else. So just 2. And here we have the same answer, 2,881. Thank you for watching part 1 of this lesson, where I've taught you now 3 new ways to do multiplication.